Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Election Day. Um, really excited and glad that the NCAA pushed for this day off for our student athletes. We know it's disruptive for everybody that's in season, and to my response to those that have an issue with it, that's just kind of too bad. This is something that we needed to make sure that our young people knew was important. There were a lot of protests about a lot of things. There's a lot of discourse, some positive, some negative about a lot of things. It need to be emphasized that we can't be a nation of just people that like to yell and talk at each other, but that we have to exercise our rights to influence the course of our local and national government. So excited that we made this choice as the NCAA, and strongly encourage all of our student athletes to, in particular, to take part. As of right now, we have no COVID issues on our football team. So I'll give you a bit of an injury report that so you don't have to ask the question, and none of these are COVID related. We have a list of guys that are out long term, as in unlikely to return this season. Dorian Maddox, Jacob Mangum-Farrar, Tristan Sinclair, and Nick Toomer. A couple of guys are week to week, but all three of these guys are unlikely for this weekend unless something drastically changes, but most likely out for Oregon. That is Gabe Reed, Caillou Kelly, and Loa Kafusi. Gabe Reed will most likely be replaced by Thunder Keck. Thunder Keck will get his first start. Just got on scholarship this past week. Had an outstanding camp. Has been a really good special teams player for us. But we will also play multiple outside linebackers in our base and nickel packages. So he'll get to start there, but we're going to play a good group of guys. Yet to be determined who will start in place of Caillou Kelly. Probably make that announcement later in the week. Maybe that followed us for a while know that I don't like to surprise people. So when we make that decision, we'll make that be known. And then we'll see when Loa can get back in there, start practicing and work himself back towards game day. Besides that, training camp's going well. First week is game week has started off well. I think on a high note, guys are focused, guys are ready, guys understand the challenge that's ahead of us going on the road to play the defending champs. They've earned the right to be confident. They've got outstanding players. Difficult for us to really kind of hone in on exactly what we're going to see. So it's freeing to a certain degree because it makes us focus on ourselves, so that our rules are right, our techniques are right. Knowing that beginning of college football seasons anyway, without a preseason, you have to imagine that these coaches are working hard and adding to their schemes anyway. But now that you have a new starting quarterback, a new pass game coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, there's some things you can look at and some things really we just have to trust our rules, in particular on the defensive side. But offensively, we're playing against one of the top defenses in the conference last year. And fully believe that they've added to their scheme. It was very difficult to run on, very difficult to pass on, extremely difficult to score on. So our challenge is right ahead of us, and we're excited about going up to Eugene and playing a football game.
First question will go to James Crapia from the Oregonian. Go ahead, James.
David, you were more disruptive against them on a per play basis than anybody last year. 7 negative plays out of 54. Beyond Tuhill not being there anymore, what was it that made you so successful last year against, I know the scheme changes, but what can you try to do between Casey not being here and Gabe now being out to try and replicate that this weekend?
Well, as many of you know from last year, we had some serious ups and downs. Sometimes coordinated on opposite sides of the ball. Days where offensively we were doing well and defensively we were banged up. Last year against Oregon was one of those games where we played really well on the defensive side. Casey played well, Gabe played well. Jordan Fox, I believe, made some plays too. The ball didn't bounce our way a couple times. We actually dislodged the ball twice. It just bounced right back to the quarterback both times. But for us, it was a combination of the right guys being healthy at the right time and being able to play well. Offensively, we didn't back that up. Like I said, this defense is hard to move the ball on. We got the ball in the scoring position a couple times and really couldn't put it in. Then couldn't move the ball with any effectiveness for the rest of the game, honestly. So combination of guys playing well, guys being healthy, and really coming to the challenge. It was known then how good Oregon was. And our guys really rose to that challenge. We just couldn't finish it in all three phases.
Next question is from Kyle Bonagura with ESPN.com.
Hey, David. General impressions of Joe Moorhead, and what do you do to prepare for a coordinator change when you have to play them in the opening week of the year?
Well, Joe's one of those guys that's very well respected from different stops around college football. All of his offenses have been balanced. They've been respectable, been able to run the ball. He brings a toughness to him. The play action game, as well as some of the spread concepts that he'll hit you with. So still hard to just guess and hard to pick something to look at. So our defense has looked at bits and pieces of different things, but mainly focusing on the personnel at Oregon and then our rules as far as how we line up to formations and how we respond to our run gaps and how we plan on playing in our coverage. So we just know that they're going to be well coordinated. They're going to be physical, and they're going to try to take advantage of what they perceive as our weakness. So we'll have to see how the game progresses to see how they're going to attack us. But once again, it's a little bit freeing to say, hey guys, you know what? Here are our rules. Here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it, because we don't have any film truly that we can trust.
And then from a personnel standpoint, what stands out about their offense?
Well, they're going to be big up front. That's where they've been the last few years, big and long on the offensive line. They got an extremely underrated running back that has made big plays and big situations. There are times, especially with the quarterback that all of us really appreciated last year, Justin Herbert. There were games where the running game took over, and this guy's got a chance to be really, really good on our level and the next one. So we can't have any mistake about how good of a player this young man is. But also knowing that they've reloaded on the outside too. They've got speed outside. We've watched this quarterback, watched him in high school. He got some playing time this past year. We know how talented of a passer he is. We understand about his stature as well. Like I said, this is a big challenge for us in game one.
Next, we'll go over to Troy Clarity from the TreeCast.
Hey, Coach, two things. One, first off, both secondaries here. Your initial read on Oregon's secondary and Caillou Blue Kelly's status. How does that change things for Stanford's secondary on Saturday?
Well, as far as we're concerned, we had planned on playing multiple guys anyway. This kind of changes that quite a bit. We'll see who we put out there first, but we anticipate possibly playing 3 or 4 corners throughout the course of the day. And in particular, if you look at our nickel packages and rotating guys in to keep everybody fresh, but at the same time, we got some guys that have practiced really well that deserve the right to play. They've earned the right to get on the field. So I'm excited about those guys, some of those guys getting their first real live action. And as far as Oregon secondary, yeah, they've got a tough scheme. They've got a tough scheme that's built to confound the quarterback from time to time on his post snap reads. So we know that they have got the guys to fill that in combination of dropping 8 guys into coverage, rolling the coverage one way or rolling it the other way, playing too high, but then also giving you pressure, and then sprinkling in that man-to-man. So we know they got the guys to play all those schemes, and they do a great job of disguising what they're doing. So for us, once again, focusing on us, as every football coach says, but really until you play a couple of games, you don't really know who you are, and you don't really know who your opponents are until they put a few games on film. So for us, we had to go in, work on the things that we've been working on, and try to go out there and execute.
Second thing, camp's over, game week is here. What do you sense is the biggest strength on the field with the squad, and what's your biggest question mark with the squad on the field right now?
You guys know those are hard questions for me to answer until we play a real football game. You know, I would say one of the strengths on our football team is valuable experience from last year. We got a lot of guys on our team that played a lot of ball last year, and they're all better than they were last year. You know, I think that's a strength, in particular at the quarterback position, at our receiving core, and on the offensive line. We got a lot of young guys that played a lot of ball. Like our tight ends are coming back, or an experienced group. You know, on the defensive side, we're sprinkled in experience some places and not as much experience in other places. But I think we've got length and we've got an athleticism. We'll have a good chunk of guys, in particular on the defensive side, that we're very high on, but they're going to learn. They're going to learn about college football kind of on the fly, which at some point in time is nerve-wracking, and at the same time exciting, because I think they're pretty good. I think they're only going to get better week by week. So, you know, taking this group up to Eugene, game one, I think it's going to be a little chillier up there than it has been down here in Northern California. But with a good group that is going to gain experience as we go.
Next, we'll go back to James Crapia. Go ahead, James.
They would sort of a follow on their defense. They were one of only, I think, 2 Pac-12 teams over the prior decade to hold you guys without a touchdown last year. I realized that KJ hurt his thumb in the game, and there were a lot of factors there. The O-line was banged up. What is it about Andy's scheme that's just kind of it presents an inherent challenge? He likes to be pretty multiple, but whether it be the personnel they lost in the secondary, you guys lost Parkinson, all that kind of stuff is changed. But what carries over? What is it about his scheme that presents kind of an inherent challenge?
Well, it was our game, and it was a bunch of other games last year also, is that they don't give you a lot of opportunities. And when they give you one, you better take advantage of it. And we had really one opportunity with the one-on-one in the end zone early in the game with Colby Parkinson, and kind of missed the throw, different play, you know, played well by the defensive back. We couldn't quite get our hands on it. And then the rest of the time, we've got coverage. You know, you got guys getting one guy over the top, one guy underneath. So there's not a lot of those one-on-one opportunities that you love to have in the red zone, that we love to have in the red zone. So, you know, a little bit on our scheme and how we do things, a little bit on when they give you an opportunity, you better take advantage of it. So that's a big thing about that. And once again, like I said earlier, it's post-snap. You know, pre-snap might be one read, and then post-snap might be something else. So the quarterback being able to diagnose that and after the snap is a real key to being successful against this defense.
Next question is from Harold Gutman. Go ahead, Harold.
Hi, Coach. I guess on paper, at least, you know, this first game is looking to be your hardest in that, you know, Oregon was picked to win the conference and you're going at Oregon, you know, week one. Just what are your thoughts playing that game as the opener as opposed to maybe having some, you know, lead in time and playing it later in the season?
Yeah, as I like to say, you know, games on paper are going to receptacle. So without a preseason, how people pick who's going to win, who's not going to win, you never know. You never know until you start playing football games. You know, the bottom line for us is the Oregon team is playing at home. They've earned the right to play with a lot of confidence. They're defending champs. They got a lot of guys coming back that are guys you have to account for, and really in all 3 phases. So that's been our focus. You know, I don't know which games are going to be harder than any. I kind of chuckled early on when we were putting the schedule together, and you know, I was part of the process of discussing how this was going to go But we talked about not starting the season with rivalries. And I said, well, it's kind of impossible because I feel like everybody in our conference is a rival. So we got a rivalry game this week. I think we got a good rivalry game the following week, followed up by 6 more. So, or 5 more. So for us, we got to get up for every single game. We didn't earn the right last year to look down on anybody. We have an opportunity, an obligation to play our best football when it's time to kick it off.
Next, we'll go over to Jacob Rayburn.
Hey, Coach. Wondered your thoughts on the development of Branson Bragg. We've heard very consistently this camp how well he's doing. Where is he right now? And how would you compare that to a year ago this time, or even where he was headed to before he got hurt?
Well, the thing you have to remember about Branson Bragg is this man was highly touted, and we're very excited about his ceiling. We think his ceiling is extremely high. He missed a lot of time in training camp last year, and really missed the beginning of the season, and finally got healthy, and probably wasn't 100%, but got healthy and had been practicing at guard. Then all of a sudden, after an injury, he had to be kicked out and play tackle. So he's true freshman guard that starts his first game at tackle and played pretty well, honestly, and then got hurt towards the end of the game, and then we didn't see him in a uniform, for a long time. So this is a young man that's very talented. That's a big square body. That's athletic and physical, but he's played almost one full college football game. He's had a good camp, but that lack of experience shows up. We've got still 3 out of our 5 starters. We keep reminding ourselves as a staff, these guys are sophomores. They haven't seen a lot of football. Now, a good chunk of them played a lot last year, but Branson wasn't one of those. So as he's doing extremely well, there's still things that he's learning on the fly. But we're excited about him. Once again, I think his ceiling is extremely high, and we're ready to get this thing kicked off and start his career off on the right foot.
Next, we'll go over to RJ Abadia. Go ahead, RJ.
Coach, you let off obviously with a bunch of guys who are going the wrong way injury-wise, but I want to ask you about a guy who's coming the other way in Ethan Bonner. Can you kind of take us through the major benchmarks that he hit over the course of the year and how he jumped up and earned that starting job?
Yeah, Ethan's one of those guys when we saw the film, and here's a guy that was fast, that was athletic, that got pass breakups, and let's talk about what we're talking about. Here's a Caucasian corner that you don't see a lot, and so we honestly believe that was one of the reasons why he was under recruited, because his film was as good as, if not better than, a lot of guys that we saw, and we've been excited about him. And he got injured in high school, got banged up again a couple times here, and every time he was healthy, he was great in practice. So the big thing for him was to be, patient. He's got a great support system at home. He's got great support from us here. For him to come back and be healthy and really be excited about playing football. And because it's been a long time for him, battled through a bunch of injuries. I think he's a lot tougher, a lot older, a lot smarter. And now after going through all these things and now ready to go out there and play some football. He is fast, he is long, he's athletic. He's got good ball skills. So we're excited about him getting out there, and wish he would have gotten some more time last year, but wishing doesn't help anybody. This is where we are now, and I'm excited about him getting out there and showing people what he can do.
Is there a silver lining just specific to him in terms of how the spring and summer played out, just in terms of downtime and him having the chance to truly get to where he needed to be to compete?
I think that's true for a lot of guys on our team that missed all of, if not big chunks of last season, is that this offseason has pretty much been the same for everybody. So it's not like they've missed a lot of football, but they've been able to truly train and actually rehab first and then train. If we started training camp on time, I think some of these guys would have had to try to finish their off-season rehab while everybody else is playing football. So for these guys, this extended time has probably been great for their bodies, not only to have more time to recover, but then to truly train and prepare to play football. And the fact that it's a shortened season. I think all those things, have played into a lot of injury guys' situations going into this year.
Next question is from the Stanford Daily's Daniel Martinez-Crams.
Hi, Coach. Just wanted to ask about who's traveling, if you're taking a smaller group because it's harder to have those guys, or a larger group in case something comes up later in the week.
So our travel roster, sorry, I almost knocked my iPad over here. Our travel roster by the standards of the conference, I believe it's the number 75. So it looks like we'll take right around 75, maybe take 74. We'll see. Combination of who's healthy. But our operations group and our training staff got a really good plan for us as far as being able to take that many guys, take them safely, minimize, if not try to extinguish potential high-risk contacts based on how we room, how we go to the stadium, how we eat, how we meet. So I believe we can take a good sized group, and if something does happen, still have enough reserves to be able to go out there and play the game with our guys. So it's taken orchestration. We had another meeting on the intricacies today. I'm sure we'll have at least one more, if not two more, by the time we get to Saturday, to make sure we're all on the same page and can handle all the potential pitfalls of traveling and playing a sport during the pandemic.
Any more questions for Coach Shaw? RJ, go ahead.
Coach Drew expressed a lot of confidence this week about where the run game was at, just in terms of identity and, that thing we've been asking you about forever almost now. But how do you feel about the run game right now, just in terms of knowing the way you want to start attacking people?
Well, my first feeling is that it's vital. We weren't healthy enough, didn't play well enough last year for it to really be where we thought it could be. So being healthy and deeper up front on the offensive line, I think is a big key. To have I'm torn up that Dorian Maddox is not going to be a part of it, because he had an outstanding offseason, but we look forward to him coming back next year. But at the same time, I think we've got a good group of backs. And speaking of guys coming back from injury, Justice Woods has had a great camp, and we're excited to see him get back in there. So to have three upperclassmen backs, to have a good group of young running backs that we're also excited about. I think the combination of being healthy and deep up front and being deep at the running back position with some talented guys, I think is going to help us get back to where we really want to be, which is a balanced offense. I've said this before, and not everybody believes it, and that's okay. We earned a reputation around here for almost a decade, and a lot of that was because we were playing games with leads. But for the most part, when the game was in doubt, first and second down, we were balanced. We're balanced between run and pass. And as a head coach and an offensive guy with an offensive background, that's what you love. You love to be able to run the ball with efficiency and the possibility of explosive plays. You want to be able to throw the ball with efficiency and the possibility of explosive plays. So the mentality for us is not just to go in and run the ball every down. The idea, though, is that we can be physical, that we can be efficient, that we can break some plays because of our scheme and our ability, and have that be coordinated well with our drop back and play action and movement game. So the idea of hopefully all that coming together, and once again different than last year. Knock on wood, we're pretty healthy up front, and with little guys with a little bit more experience, so we can put a little bit more on them. I think we had to take care of some of our young guys. They played as well as they could play last year, but we played with 3 freshmen for a majority of the season, and we just couldn't put that much on those guys. We're trying to get them to survive week to week, but now we're past the survival phase. Now we're at the phase of going out there and executing. So that's the hope, is that we can go back and be balanced between run and pass, being efficient and explosive.
Have time for a couple more. Next, we'll go over to Troy Clarity.
You're going to be walking into Autzen Stadium, but you won't be greeted by 59,000 of the Ducks football team's closest friends. How does that potentially change things for this week's matchup?
Well, there's part of me that is going to miss that. There's one thing going into that stadium, you love that feeling that you get. They play, Jack White and the White Stripes. Played that a couple times during pregame and during the game. Get you fired up and you hear the crowd, the fans. But the other 80% of me is excited that our quarterback will actually be able to communicate and be able to hear each other. So I think that's a positive. And at the same time, I am going to miss that atmosphere this entire year, and prayerfully hoping that we can line up next year and be able to fill the stadiums again, and for home and away, and have the kind of crowds that we're accustomed.
Next, we'll go over to RJ again. Go ahead, RJ.
Coach, the December signing period the last couple of years has kind of become the de facto signing period for the bulk of guys, especially for you guys. I'm curious, both for you and just college football as a whole, do you expect more guys to maybe hold out to the February date just because of everything that's come before it?
That is a great question. My guess is the majority of people will still sign in December. We've been able to do some great virtual visits, as many people around the country. These student athletes, these prospective student athletes, have gotten an opportunity to get to know their coaches, get to know other recruits, get to know some of the guys on each team. So many of them are still being able to make informed decisions. So a lot of those guys are still going to sign in December, but you will have a couple that I believe will hold out just to see what happens in the winter. I don't anticipate it being a free for all. We're not going to be out of this pandemic anytime soon. So I don't know when the NCAA is going to start lifting some of these visiting rules, because once you lift those rules, now you're going to have essentially what you don't want to have in the middle of a pandemic, which is people going from one place to another place to another place to another place, making themselves potentially vulnerable, and at the same time potentially making campus to campus vulnerable. So I think some people may hold out to a certain degree to that second signing date, but I don't see any drastic changes to the visiting policies. It could happen, but we'll see. I know a lot of people are pushing forward because they would love to have it. I know a lot of student athletes are missing that opportunity to go visit campuses. But at the same time, I think we also need to be responsible. And this is not a political statement at all. It's just a health statement for what's going on around our country and the numbers that have started to rise again. So that's going to be a tough one. I think that's the biggest issue a lot of guys are waiting for, if they do wait until February. But I still believe I think the majority of guys are still going to sign in December because they've been able to gather enough information and make the right choice for themselves.
And then just a really quick follow-up. I think you kind of tipped your hand a little, but what is your attitude about the unofficials that have been happening, where student athletes that can afford it make a trip, but obviously can't talk to anyone, can't see anybody, but can do the thing on their own? Do you have any feelings in either direction about those?
Yeah, we can't really encourage those. Some people want to do it, and that's fine as long as they adhere to city and county and campus regulations. We've heard about it going on all over the camp, all over the United States. I think it is somewhat of a positive just for these people to get an idea of the school if they've never visited before. I know we're fortunate to be in a place in early November where it's still 70 degrees. That's always a possibility for these people. It's still not the same. It's not the same as being able to host student athletes and their families and show them around campus and introduce them to everybody. But it's something that has gone on, and hopefully we can start to have unofficial and official visits before too long. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but I'm looking forward to those days where we can really host people on campus again.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any more hands, so appreciate everyone joining. Coach Shaw, thanks for your time. We'll do another check-in Thursday afternoon. Have a good rest
Great.
of the day.
Thanks, everybody.